Last night, Congressman Grimm performed the almost impossible political task of personally overshadowing the entire State of the Union address and every other response to it when he threatened to kill a reporter right there in the U.S. Capitol building while the camera on him was still running.
So Congressman Michael Grimm does not want to talk about some of the allegations concerning his campaign finances. We wanted to get him on camera on that, but he, as you saw, refused to talk about that. Back to you.
Why? Let me be clear to you. You have to do that to me again. I'll tell you what.
I just wanted to ask you. Why? It's a valid question.
You tell me what. No, you're not made. You're not made.
I'll throw you off this effing balcony. You're not man enough. I'll break you in half like a boy. I really don't get the like a boy part of it. Boys break in half. Men don't. I don't know what that means. After the initial outcry, Congressman Grimm put out a statement after that happened last night, essentially defending himself and defending the reasonableness of his decision to threaten to kill that reporter. His statement said, quote, "I was extremely annoyed because I was doing New York One a favor by rushing to do their interview. The reporter insisted on taking a disrespectful and cheap shot at the end of the interview. I verbally took the reporter to task and I told him off because I expect a certain level of professionalism and respect. And so I threatened to throw him off a balcony." Yeah, that was the first statement. Hours later, Congressman Michael Grimm apparently reconsidered his initial attack and reportedly did call the New York One reporter who he threatened to kill and told him that he was sorry, no hard feelings.
So Congressman Michael Grimm does not want to talk about some of the allegations concerning his campaign finances. We wanted to get him on camera on that, but he, as you saw, refused to talk about that. Back to you.
Why? Let me be clear to you. You have to do that to me again. I'll tell you what.
I just wanted to ask you. Why? It's a valid question.
You tell me what. No, you're not made. You're not made.
Like a boy. What's that about? On one level, it is just an amazing spectacle that this happened. That the way some New York politicians apparently are used to behaving leaked onto television in this case, because the congressman apparently didn't realize the camera was still rolling. But what that reporter from New York One was trying to ask about at that moment was the ongoing FBI investigation into how exactly Michael Grimm became a congressman in the first place. That was an upset win back in 2010 on Staten Island. Yeah, that was a Republican year, but that was an upset win. Part of the reason that Michael Grimm was able to win in that upset race was that he raised a hugely unexpected amount of money. Since then, a federal grand jury was convened in July 2012 to look into allegations of illegal fundraising by the congressman. The FBI's public corruption unit has interviewed several Michael Grimm campaign workers. Earlier this month, the FBI arrested a former Michael Grimm fundraiser on charges that she illegally funneled thousands of dollars into his campaign. Another key figure in the Michael Grimm fundraising world who steered hundreds of thousands of dollars into his campaign, into his first campaign back in Staten Island for 2010, pled guilty last year to visa fraud. One of the things the federal investigation is reportedly looking into is whether or not Congressman Grimm or his campaign donors illegally got money for that campaign from people who aren't American, from foreigners who are not legally allowed to donate to a campaign like that. But even understanding that context, consider also that this is not the first time that New York Congressman Michael Grimm has physically threatened anyone who questions him about the charges that he faces about his first campaign. In December, in an interview with the same news station whose reporter Michael Grimm threatened last night, New York news anchor Errol Lewis pressed Michael Grimm hard about that ongoing FBI investigation into his campaign fundraising, the arrests of people associated with him. Well, today, New York One's political director said that something previously undescribed in the press happened after that heated interview, which now takes on a rather new light. Quote, "Following an interview with New York One's Errol Lewis in December 2012, the congressman blew his top. But this time it was off camera. After the interview, Congressman Grimm became red-faced and started yelling at both Errol Lewis and me. Acting as if he were in a bar instead of a TV studio, the congressman, quote, alluded to settling the issue by taking it outside with our political anchor, Errol Lewis. Joining us now is Errol Lewis, political anchor for New York One and the host of Inside City Hall, who has had some experience with Congressman Grimm. Mr. Lewis, thank you for being here.
Of course. Good to see you.
You didn't actually take it outside with him.
No. I didn't even consider it. I mean, I'm in that part of the world like most professional employees where when you do things like that, you get fired.
Yeah.
If you threaten to throw people over balconies and stuff like that, most people would just get fired. And I certainly didn't consider it. I did tell my producer I wasn't interested in talking with him anymore. And 2013 was Michael Grimm free. You know, I mean, wow. I just told him just to keep him out of here because he was clearly out of control, and it could only get me and people around me in trouble. So we just figured it would be better to just keep him out of the studio.
The reason I wanted to contextualize Michael Grimm amid other bad-behaving politicians of various stripes in this part of the world is because you're at New York One. You cover not just New York City, but the New York region, the tri-state area, and there's so much bad behavior by politicians. Is his personal behavior of a different stripe than other people you've had to have difficult conversations with in this very rough and tumble political environment?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Most of the people that you listed there are people that I've interviewed at one time or another. And, you know, you talk to a Malcolm Smith, you talk to a Joe Bruno, you talk to a Pedro Espada even, people who in some cases ended up going to prison. And, you know, they'll play along. They're professional politicians. They understand it's part of their obligation that when the public wants to know what's going on and what these charges are, you put on a big smile and you say it's false. Or you put on a big smile and say, I can't talk about it. Or you put on a big smile and say, talk to my lawyer. Or you put on a big smile and say, I'm here to talk about the State of the Union. I don't want to talk about it. Most people do that. What was so surprising last night, because I was on the other side, when he said back to you in the studio, that was me. Mm-hmm. The surprising thing was that he said he didn't want to talk about it. Okay, so far so good. He walks off camera, and then he comes back and threatens the guy. And I'm like, well, why didn't he just, go have a drink or something, or go, curse the reporter out or something?
Yeah, go
like
kick
that.
The wall.
Yeah, something like that. And he didn't do that. And I don't think he could have done it. I mean, there is an issue here, I think, about what personal resources he has to sort of, fend off some of the most difficult parts of his job. I mean, he's got to answer these charges. I mean, when the Ethics Committee in Congress is talking about you, and the Justice Department is talking about you, and the New York Times is talking about you, and everybody's talking about you, your constituents want to know what the heck is going on. And so, it's really just a matter of him saying, like any other politician would say, the charges are false. I'll get my day in court. I'll show you all. And it does happen once in a while. I mean, you showed a pretty broad rogues gallery, and I know you only have an hour, so you couldn't go through most of it. But there are a lot of people who, you look at the charges and it swirls around for a while, and sometimes it does go away, or it's not as bad as people first thought.
Sure. I mean, right now, Michael Grimm has a new set of problems. And it's interesting. I describe this as a spectacle because I think that is how it's being viewed right now. But Congress actually does have a decision to make now that happened, whether or not Michael Grimm apologized for it, as to whether or not that behavior towards your colleague at New York One last night was itself worthy of some sort of censure or some sort of response from Congress. He did threaten to kill the guy in not as many words. I wonder if you feel like in that context, with the Department of Justice investigation, the interest from the Ethics Committee, if the ethics charges, the previous problems that Michael Grimm has had, are well understood. He obviously refutes the charges. He says he's totally innocent. But do you feel like the way they get nutshelled now that people are focusing on him nationally is accurate?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I mean, look, he's got to answer these questions. I mean, look, you have, as you said, a question about whether or not somebody raised money from foreign nationals. That's a yes-no question. The Department of Justice, they know how to do this. He used to be an FBI agent. He's well aware of the power and the tools that they have at their disposal. They are going to shake the trees. They are going to talk to people. They're going to put people under oath. They're going to put people under pressure. They're going to find out whether or not that's true. But in the course of doing it, things like this arrest of his former friend or his friend come up. And there are other kind of issues about whether there was money structuring or whether there were swapping of donations or whether or not people got reimbursed, which some emails have suggested, after giving him donations. So, the tactic of saying, I'm innocent and don't you dare ask me or I'll commit physical violence against you, that doesn't seem to be working. So we'll see what Congressman Grimm comes up with. But the current strategy not working very well.
Errol Lewis, the host of Inside City Hall for New York One News, caught in the middle of something just horrendous last night. My apologies to your colleague who had to endure that. I know I didn't do it, but it made me feel sick for him as a journalist.
He's a tough guy, and he's doing well. He just needs a little bit of sleep and shook it right off.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Errol Lewis, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. We will be right back. Stay with us.